Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of the Bonanza Kickoff Show, brought to you on both Facebook and YouTube. It's yours truly, Brandon Rutherman, coming to you from my humble abode with Christmas tunes playing and a Christmas tree decked in helmets. The last of the helmets finally got put on this week. We had 113, which tied the whiteout record for the year, but we decided to break it with not one, but two. Two new acquisitions. IUP and Cal. Only fitting, being that it's Christmas time, that we deliver a slice of Coal Bowl related matters. Cal and IUP play against each other every year in the annual Coal Bowl. So while there's no coal in the stocking, there is coal on the tree. Couldn't make that up. But anyway, before we get to the business of the Gasparilla Bowl tonight, which pits Georgia Tech and UCF, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Florida State. I haven't really had a chance to talk about Florida State since it was announced that they weren't going to be playing in the college football playoff. Now, up until this year, I couldn't give two crumbs worth of an F-bomb about Florida State. But I like what they've done this year. They did it without ego, with the right coach, the right quarterback. And they earned every victory this season, despite the fact that their starting quarterback, Jordan Travis, got hurt against North Alabama, which, in NFL terms, you could have easily just said, couldn't you just sit your starter? Well, unfortunately, that's not how college football works. Especially when you consider how many teams there were in their inner and outer periphery that were also sporting great intentions on wanting to be in that college football playoff. Well, Florida State didn't get in. And like a lot of you, I was pissed. We all grew up comforted in the knowledge that any team without a loss should be in the conversation. Just as it was in 1984 when BYU won a national championship without playing in a major bowl game, which to this day still bewilders me. That's BYU, though. They did their due diligence. They did. And they won every game. So why doesn't Florida State deserve the same treatment? Well, we're in a different era. We have a playoff system that should have been fixed the moment it was first brought to the world, the college football landscape. Not with 4 teams, but with 12, which is what we're getting next year. And I, for one, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. The NCAA basically is tiptoeing through the minefield without a captain. And despite the fact that Florida State is not in the playoff, you're going to be looking at one team with a very big chip on their shoulders in Miami when Florida State goes up against Georgia. I can promise you that. They might be playing with a different quarterback, but if there's one thing I do know, Georgia had better be wary of Florida State. Sure, the counter-argument in all of this was, well, Alabama beat the number 1 team in the country, and they're the SEC champion. Okay, I get that. And yeah, I'm sporting Alabama, but if it makes you feel any better, There you have it, folks. I got Alabama, I got Michigan. And I think that probably would have been the matchup that everybody would have turned towards. I just didn't imagine it would be heading to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. And as sure as I'm sitting here, I got Mariah Carey audio bombing the show. Is it too late to start over? No. But anyway, Florida State, despite the fact that they're not playing in the CFP, now there's another issue. One in which that had long been in discussions right around the time that all this realignment business was taking off. Those of you who followed it closely know where I'm going with it. Florida State had been in talks, as was Virginia, or not Virginia, Miami, Clemson. And there might, I want to think maybe North Carolina too, all for possibly leaving the ACC. Well, Florida State is pretty much now the Rodney Dangerfield of the college football world. I never thought I would say that, let alone admit it. Just as sure as Mike Greenberg calls the CFP figure skating, because it's not handled on the field anymore. It's handled by judges, committee members. You know, I've heard it all. I have. No doubt about it. And it's one of those things, I think, where you think it's going to go away, but this is not going to go away. Florida State is growing a chip on its shoulder so big that by the time the clock hits zero at the Orange Bowl, it won't be off. It'll still be ongoing. Because even if they don't beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl, they have another battle off the field against the ACC. They're suing the conference. They are suing the conference. They have no choice now. When the ACC expanded, the contract that everybody was under, from what I can recall, was airtight. No loopholes to be found anywhere. And while the ACC keeps its core intact, at least for now, along with the additions, I believe, of Stanford, Cal, and SMU, which geographically doesn't make a lick of sense, but this is the hand we're dealt with, folks. Where does that leave basically the upper echelon of the ACC? And not only that, where would they go? There's only three answers. The Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12. But at this point in the going, it's anybody's guess. And, we're going to go through this again, at least from Florida State's standpoint, for the next 6 months until the season begins, which will already be in full-on chaos, just in the nature of the buildup of the season. The only thing I can hope for is that Florida State wins somewhere between now and the start of next season. If they can pull a daily double, then hats off to them. I'll gladly put on the garnet and gold. Too bad I don't have the lanyard with me. But Florida State got hosed on so many levels. I mean, this is not your father's Seminoles anymore. This is not the same team that played Miami every year where both teams were in the top 5 or the top 10 and the game came down to a missed kick here, a missed kick there. We're not living in that time period anymore. This Florida State team has got a lot more respect for me this year than maybe at any point. So all I can hope for is, I don't know if I can find the right word, but I think solidarity might be a good one to start with, because they're all in it for the same purpose. The players, coaches, everybody involved with the program. And hopefully they'll come out the other side a lot more hungrier, for better or for worse. But I'm going to promise you something. When the Orange Bowl comes calling and Florida State gets ready to play Georgia, Uga better hide in the doghouse, because it ain't going to be pretty. There's going to be one pissed off group of football players. That I can tell you. While I haven't made the pick yet, you can almost go ahead and put it down now for Florida State to beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl. So, now that I've said my 2 cents, and being that we're over close to 12 minutes in the episode today, it's probably good that I got this thing in here before the sun goes down. Tonight we have Georgia Tech and UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl, which I believe is down in Tampa, which means yet another Florida team with home field advantage. Yeah, it's like that. After what South Florida did to Syracuse last night, that was about the only thing that did surprise me, was the fact that not only did they win, they beat the living crap out of Syracuse. So congratulations to South Florida for winning its bowl game, and now Central Florida has its turn at the plate and hoping that they could swing for the fences against the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech. What I find interesting is that Georgia Tech had long been an ACC doormat, but you could see Georgia Tech coming around after they beat Pitt a year ago. And now finally they've crossed into postseason territory, and one can only wonder if Georgia Tech is fundamentally sound to go a full 60 against a team like UCF. It's tough to say. I know very little about both of those teams. I don't know the point spread, but I do know, as I said, it's technically a home game for UCF. They're playing in Tampa. So, with that being said, too bad I don't have a sword in my hand. Otherwise, I would be like, go Knights! Central Florida over Georgia Tech tonight in the Gasparilla Bowl. And now, quick reminder, coming up tomorrow morning, I will give you the picks of all 7 bowl games that are going to be stretched out over the early afternoon and into the midnight hour. That's right, we got 7 of them. Beginning with Arkansas State and Northern Illinois, and closing it with Coastal Carolina against San Jose State and everything in between, including the likes of Troy playing Duke, James Madison against Air Force, Utah against Northwestern, and a couple others whose bowls and teams I can't think of at the moment. But I'll get them all covered, and I'll get them all picked for you bright and early Saturday morning, right here on both Facebook and YouTube. And with that, Brandon Rutherman signing off for the Bowl Bonanza Kickoff Show. Talk to you tomorrow morning.